All right, I'm giving you what you click for right away, but just know that this is not a video exclusively about drama. At the second part of this, once we get through this, I'm going to make a bigger, more nuanced point about what this actually means for founders and employees and just the general public. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about the high profile people who started a company from nothing and then due to maybe some good reasons, maybe some bad reasons, they were no longer at that company. Probably the most famous one here, Steve Jobs, started Apple, brought on this guy. I forget who he is. I think he's from Coke, right? Coca Cola. And if I were to summarize the whole thing as I understand it, they had a big disagreement and they brought it to the board, and the board sided with the other guy, and the board had control, majority control, and so Steve was out. He came back, and it's a redemption story, but he was out for a while, and he was, it was a huge, I don't know, failure for him, and really put him into a depression, as I remember him saying in a video. This one, more of a disgraced example. I don't exactly know what happened, and with a lot of these, I don't even really care about the details of the drama. I don't want to get into it, the gossip and the speculation, but let's just say due to some accusations, the founder of Uber was out. I'm kind of surprised I haven't heard from him since. I don't know. I think he's just, who knows? He's not Uber anymore, though. Uber's still going. Groupon, I think this one's more straightforward. I think Groupon just didn't do well financially, 77% decline. And same with this one, I think the co-founder of Yahoo, Jerry Yang. I don't know if a scandal or something with this, but a recent example would be Black Girls Who Code founder Kimberly Bryant. I think this one would be grouped as drama. Some kind of drama happened here. I don't know what again. I don't know who was right. I think they had a dispute and a lot of lawyers were involved, but she started this company and she did not end with the company. Another big one, Jack Dorsey. This one, I do want to pull out some quotes before I jump into my interpretation. He, in his angle, has always had problems with the board, and he's been plotting to get out. And he said at the bottom here, one of the board members was an activist investor, and he said, I just didn't want to be on a board with an activist. I didn't want to run a company like that. It's just a Wall Street mess. It's not creative. It's diminishing. And as I understand, an activist investor is like an institutional guy who is trying to influence the company in an active way by, I don't know how they do it or what they do it, but it's not like a calm environment where everyone just listens to the founder anymore. And over here in this right article, we see that from another angle, the angle of this article was like, well, Mr. Dorsey just like wasn't very good. They say his focus on outside hobbies, including sewing and drawing classes, and his frequent party appearances annoyed his coworkers, and his lack of communication to investors and apparent six-figure text message bills annoyed the board. And he had frequent arguments with Williams, who was his co-founder, or who provided initial funding. And also, there's no backup of Twitter's database. I don't know how much of that is true, but just keep that in the back of your head that they didn't like how he had hobbies and went to parties and had text bills, and the database lack of backups is not a good thing. I'll cede that point. Another one, Napster guy, also early Facebook guy, also a lot of accusations and drama with this one, but he was a founder, Sean Parker, from companies, and he was pushed out. Put a pin in this one. This guy has a redemption arc. And then I said, you know what? This is a lot of guys. What about some girls? Did they get pushed out? And for the record, here's a list, even recent ones, and not even including Theranos. Um, that whole company imploded. With a lot of these, like, it's interesting that the company survived, and it's just the founder. The founder was pushed out. Okay, so that's the backdrop of our story. I want to take a little step back and show you the context of how I was even thinking of this. I came across this article, which came out like 7 years ago, and it poses the question, what happens to a startup when venture capitalists replace the founder? And early on, I didn't even know you could replace the founder. And it turns out between 20 and 40% of founders do not remain in their original role. They're often replaced by more seasoned executives. So basically, the venture capitalists give them money, and then they're like, hey, so and so, I think it's time for you to be the chairman or an advisor. And this other guy who has experience scaling things, he's going to come in and run the show like a big boy, like an adult. And if they don't have control over the voting shares, and then I don't think they really have a choice. Then it's just a matter of, do you fight it? Do you just quit? Do you walk away? Or do you say y'all came up with an agreement and you both mutually decided that it'd be best for the company if you stepped away a little bit? Who knows? Then I looked into it a little more. I'm like, okay, this came up from Harvard Business, so maybe just their study was like that. I saw Sequoia drops their own unofficial quote of like 45%, I think. And then, 45% of founding CEOs of their investments were fired within 18 months. It's not even 2 years they're out. This is another VC firm, OpenView, and the guy, this is over a decade old now, but the guy says this isn't just about Sequoia. It's an early stage, high growth VC funded company trend. It's just like, the takeaway here is this is how it goes. This is how it goes. Like, the founder's good to get things going, and then someone else comes in to finish what he started. Then I'm like, okay, there's got to be a good example. There's got to be an example where, there's a founder who did a good job getting off the ground, but actually stuck around and is still in control and wasn't ousted by his board. And you know what? A shining example is Meta and Mark. This article has a negative angle here. It's saying, after he fired 11,000 workers due to financial issues a couple years ago, they're like, why isn't he fired? Why can't the CEO be fired? And it's because early on in Meta, Mark was running the show when it was Facebook, and then they brought in our old buddy here, Sean. Where'd he go? They brought in Sean, and Sean Parker, after having been ousted from his old companies, learned some lessons about how to not structure things. And I'm paraphrasing a lot, but as I understand, he advised Mark to use the leverage he had of Facebook's enormous success to negotiate with the board so that the board would give up a ton of voting shares. And even though Mark's ownership percentage would get diluted at a normal rate, his power or his ability to affect decisions would not. So that for every one voting share Mark has, or for every one share of votes that the other members of the board have, Mark has like 5 or 10 or 11. I forget exactly. So let's just look at this. He owns less than 14%, but what's the actual number? I'm sure it's in here somewhere. Okay, there's a dual class setup. So there's class A shares, and then there's class B shares. And the B shares are worth 10 votes each. Okay. It means Zuckerberg alone controls more than 57% of the vote. So even if everyone else disagrees with them, he has the majority over decisions. So he can't be removed. basically. The actual numbers don't matter, but the effect is you can't vote this guy out. And that's a scenario that Steve couldn't get out of, as I understand. Like, the others voted on this guy's side, and what could he do? But if he had more voting shares and they all agreed with this guy, then I think he's still at the company. So even though the share price went up a lot, and even though most of the holders of the share, I think like 80% are institutional. So they're banks, they're asset managers, they're investment firms, all these normal people, Morgan Stanley, BlackRock, Vanguard, Fidelity. They own most of Facebook, right? Because it's a public company. But Zuckerberg is still calling the shots, and even Elon, who's the strong-nosed, hard-charging person, seems to be envious of this structure because um, he was plotting for even more voting control of the company. He wanted 25% voting control at Tesla. I don't know if he got it or not. At the time he had 13%. He had 13% stake. Forget how much voting he had at that time. But let's just say he does have 25%. It's still only 25%. And if everyone disagrees with him, it's not his call anymore. And I think what he's saying is it's unfortunate that he can't change it after the IPO, which is what he's trying to do, because this happened last year. Whereas Mark, he's basically jealous that Mark set it up like he did, if I could summarize this whole thing. And he knows it. He says, if I have 25% of Tesla, it means I am influential, but can be overridden if twice as many shareholders vote against me versus for me. And at 15%, it could even be taken over by dubious interests. I think this means like activist investors, etc. I don't know what happened with Tesla, and that's not really the point. Let's take a step back a little bit and just talk about like the VC landscape in general. So to lay my cards out, I've never raised venture capital. I tried to get into YC, I didn't get in. If I did get in, I would have taken it. And who knows, my whole opinion on this might be totally different. I'm really open to other perspectives here. I feel like I'm living in crazy land here, because when I'm seeing stories like this, when I'm looking at the numbers, I'm thinking like this doesn't add up for founders to want to do this. Like, why would you do this? And if you're not seeing what I'm meaning, I have a figure for you. Me and ChatGPT did some research, and I wanted to plot out of 1,000 founders, 1,000 startup companies, what can we expect to happen? So out of 1,000 startups that attempt to raise VC, 100 of them actually raise VC. So 10%. That's just the first wave of problems. So if you're trying super hard to raise VC, 90% of y'all aren't going to get there, but 10% will. 100 of you will. And then of those, who will get from the pre-seed or seed to Series A? 11% of those who raised. So out of 1,000 startup teams who tried to raise, 11 of them get to Series A. Okay. Now remember that stat we started with earlier when we talked about how after 18 months, most people are pushed out, or a lot of people are pushed out. So you're one of the 11 who made it out of the 1,000 and got money in a second round of money. One of you is going to get pushed out. At least one of you. Actually, I think like two and a half of you will be pushed out by the VCs. And then the other ones who will survive, there will be 3 of you who survive. 2 to 3, basically. 2 to 3 out of the 1,000 who tried to raise will have successfully raised, not gotten pushed out, and still be CEO, we'll say. even of those 2 or 3, that does not guarantee you that you're going to have majority voting shares. So even if you make it past Series B, you can still get pushed out. You can get pushed around. You can get bullied. If they see things differently than you do, it's kind of like you're just fighting for your job and to get paid. So like at that point, even if you won, and if your goal was to like be a boss or be in charge of your life and have your vision actualized and push through and be bold and take risks and do things how you want to do it, 2 to 3 out of 1,000 will have the chance to do that. And if it turns out that it's not working for you on a short enough time frame, you're gonna get pushed out. These are the numbers I'm talking about. Someone please make it make sense to me. Someone make it make sense. I get the argument if you are just so about this one solution or problem and it takes so much capital to raise, deep tech, some kind of biotech thing. Maybe you're doing like an LLM company and you have to just compete a lot on researchers and data and compute and all that. I get it. Like, I'm not against VC, but if you're just a normal dude who wants like a good life and wants more control over his time and money and has a vision and wants to see things through, like, why would you play this game? This game seems so stacked against you. So stacked against you, bro. Dude, I have some takeaways here, okay? First takeaway is that documents are better than words and titles. So you could be CEO, you could be founder, you could be around for 10 years. Everyone could look at your Wikipedia page and it seems like you're running the show. But if behind closed doors in those boardrooms, you have less voting shares than those people, then you're out. Goodbye. Who cares? Who cares what the narrative is? That the documents are what's important. Second point, that first point, that's just a fact. That's not, Tyler's take. These next 2 are my interpretations on things. I believe I'm a big fan of playing the long game versus the short game. So when you're on a board, when you're raising venture capital, as I understand, their cycles, what they need to see return happens within like 5 to 10 years. They need to get payouts. When you're a public company, those institutional investors and the general public, they want to see quarterly progress, that you're hitting projections. That's like not a lot of time over the course of a lifetime, and it just makes the stakes really high and it makes things intense. I'm a much bigger fan of thinking in decades. Like, okay, I want to play this game. I might suck at it for 5 to 10 years, and then after 10 years, I'll get okay, and then I'll just keep going. And I like the work, and whether it takes 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, like, I'm gonna figure it out. It seems really unlikely that someone who enjoys the work and just is willing to show up every day for 15 years is not gonna have a great outcome financially. And if you're gonna have a great outcome financially, eventually, in my mind, I'm like, why are you selling your soul along the way? Like, this didn't need to happen. You didn't need to get this meteoric growth in 3, 5, 7 years. Like, why not just chill out a little bit and get in 12 years, 15 years? Some caveats. I know people have families. I know they have timelines. I know there are windows of life, and I can appreciate wanting to just go friggin' hard for like a season. I can appreciate that. But for me, I like the long game, and I also like the identity. For me, entrepreneurship and startups and creating your own thing, just being a creator, it's about being your creation. In fact, I think recently Naval had a tweet that said, what you create is an honest reflection of who you are. Something like that. What you create is an honest reflection of who you are. And that's facts, man. Like, uh, so in my mind, I'm like, okay, what do I want to create? Who do I want to be? And then it eventually comes down to the structure on what kind of company structure is going to allow me to be that, is going to allow me to create that. And a structure where you have a bunch of people on the board who can boss you around, where a bunch of new people can come in and buy shares and boss you around, where you're tied into this 7-year turnaround really quick. It just makes it makes it hard to be the type of person that I want to be. Now, I'm moving to San Francisco soon. And I'm excited to hear their perspective on things. This is from an outsider's perspective. This is from someone who's looking at these numbers, and I'm trying to put this together, man. I'm trying to make it make sense in my head. If you are seeing something I'm not, please tell me, because uh, this seems so clear in my head to be such a bad idea to set up your company in a way where you can end up like any of these people. Let me know in the comments. I'm very open to hearing what you think on this one. Thanks for watching and giving me your time. I don't take it for granted, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.